Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a topic that's pretty much dominating global politics, the 2026 landscape of Donald Trump's presidency. We're 1 year into his return to the White House, and his administration is at the absolute center of both domestic and international attention. So whether you're following every single headline or you're just trying to catch up on the big picture, our goal today is to look at the facts directly from our sources and figure out exactly what's happening, why it's happening, and how different sides are reacting. Okay, let's just dive right into our roadmap. We're going to look at 5 key areas today. 1. The 2026 political landscape. 2. Immigration and border security. 3. The America First economy. 4. Executive power in the courts. And 5. A nation divided. We're keeping things completely objective here, just exploring both the heavily praised successes and the intense controversies, straight down the middle. All right, Section 1, the 2026 political landscape. So just 1 year into this second term, the stakes are incredibly high, and the sheer volume of activity coming out of Washington is frankly staggering. To really grasp what the White House is prioritizing right now, we have to look at their core driver. It's the America First agenda. This isn't just a campaign slogan anymore. It's their actual guiding policy framework. It focuses heavily on immigration, tariffs, deregulation, and some pretty massive structural changes to the federal government itself. Actually, pretty much everything we're talking about today flows directly outward from this one specific agenda. And how exactly are they moving so fast? Well, they're using an unusually large number of executive orders. That's the primary engine driving these changes. Now, relying so heavily on executive action has a major twofold effect. On one hand, it lets the president totally bypass legislative gridlock, which supporters absolutely love because it means campaign promises are getting fulfilled fast. But on the flip side, that huge volume of unilateral action has instantly sparked a massive wave of legal challenges in the courts. These executive orders aren't random, though. The policy priorities for 2026 basically fall into 4 big buckets: immigration enforcement, tariffs implementation, domestic deregulation, and federal government restructuring. By grouping their efforts like this, the administration is literally attempting to touch almost every aspect of American life, from who crosses the borders to how businesses run to how federal agencies operate. Which brings us to Section 2, Immigration and Border Security. If there's one foundational element to their entire immigration strategy, it is this. Border security is the administration's top priority. They've made it crystal clear. This is where the abstract idea of America First hits the ground with real-world impact. But because it affects so many people on a tangible level, it's easily one of the most fiercely debated topics of the year. This strategy has created a really stark divide. For supporters, the administration is doing exactly what it promised. They see policies that successfully strengthen border enforcement and secure the nation. But flip over to the critics, and the view is vastly different. They argue that these exact same policies raise major concerns over humanitarian impacts and the erosion of legal protections for migrants. So you've got this intense clash between securing the border and humanitarian concerns. Let's shift gears to Section 3, the America First economy. The White House is aggressively pushing its financial agenda here, pulling some very specific economic levers. Their focus areas include imposing tariffs to change trade dynamics, actively boosting domestic manufacturing, sweeping deregulation, securing big investment announcements, and launching technology initiatives. For the administration, the surge in those investment announcements and tech initiatives are the concrete receipts proving their strategy is actually working. But again, just like with immigration, the economic response is totally split. Backers say these policies actively encourage investment and protect domestic industry, a real revitalization of the economy. Critics, however, look at things like tariffs and deregulation and worry about the downstream effects. They argue these moves threaten long-term consumer prices, trade stability, and could really impact the federal budget over time. Moving on to Section 4, Executive Power and Courts. You really can't have a massive, rapid wave of executive action without creating some serious institutional friction. All throughout 2026, news organizations have continuously reported on continuing legal disputes over executive actions and deep disagreements with political opponents. It's not just standard political arguing in Congress, it's active litigation, with the judicial branch constantly being asked to weigh in on the limits of presidential authority. And that friction really highlights the core duality of this presidency, as our sources summarize it perfectly. For supporters, Trump represents decisive leadership. For critics, many of the same actions raise concerns about governance and institutional checks and balances. It's wild. One executive order, but 2 completely opposite interpretations depending on who you ask. That brings us to our final part, Section 5, A Nation Divided. When we step back, the 2026 reality is basically two parallel narratives running at the exact same time. On one track, the White House confidently highlights its rapid policy achievements. On the other track, news organizations are constantly reporting on ongoing institutional disputes. The result? Global and domestic audiences remain sharply divided. This administration is a topic of fierce debate literally everywhere. All of this leaves us with a final, pretty provocative question. What does this enduring polarization mean for the future of American politics and the balance of institutional power? As we've seen, the lines are clearly drawn. Whether you view the rapid changes of 2026 as a series of necessary successes or a cascade of institutional challenges, the reality is that these deep divides are actively shaping the future of the nation right now. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and definitely keep asking those big questions.